This is yet another ritual of living sacrifice that will shatter your worldview, also known as the hanging of the human sacrifices in the trees. In this 9-day-long ceremony, a total of 72 male beings will be sacrificed, including 9 living humans. Their blood will be collected and poured into the blood pool beneath the statues of the gods, so that the gods can feel the warmth and devotion of the people, and the bodies of these 72 different species will also be hung upside down in the forest, nourishing the flowers, plants, and trees here, praying for rain and good weather. This is the most famous sacrifice at the Upsala temple of the Vikings. Just recently, Ragnar, as the new lord on his first raid to the west, once again brought back countless treasures of gold and silver, but Ragnar couldn't be happy because as soon as he returned home, he found out that his wife Lagertha had unfortunately miscarried while he was away. Ragnar fell into a deep guilt and self-blame, believing that all these misfortunes were caused by himself. Ragnar told Athelstan that every 9 years, we would go to the Upsala temple to thank the gods for their blessings, sacrificing offerings to thank the gods for giving us offspring and for blessing us with rain and good weather. This year was the 9th year, but he missed the time for the sacrifice because he was eager to raid the west. Ragnar believed that he had angered the gods, and that the gods cruelly took away his unborn child. Ragnar wanted to go to the temple to atone for his mistakes and proposed to take Athelstan with him, who hesitated but eventually agreed to his request. As everyone might have noticed, Athelstan's hairstyle has changed, and his dress has become more like that of a Viking. In the 2 years since coming to the Viking tribe, Athelstan has gradually integrated into this society. Even that Bible he treasured has rotted away. After getting everything ready, Ragnar, his family, and his loyal followers set off for the temple, which was more like a large gathering, with many prominent Viking earls and their followers in attendance. Everyone lined up to receive the blessing of the priest. Lagertha hoped to become pregnant again, even if it meant sacrificing her sight or hearing. This was Athelstan's first time seeing the gods of the Viking faith, and he couldn't help but show a look of admiration. Probably even he himself was unclear if he still considered himself a Christian. After the blessing, Athelstan saw circles filled with chickens, cows, and sheep outside the temple, and curiously, there were exactly 9 of each type of livestock. Athelstan, puzzled, asked Ragnar,
"What is this?"
These will all be killed as sacrifices.
6, 7, 8, 9. 7, 8, 9. And 9 goats and 9 pigs. There's 9 of everything.
Yes, 9 of every kind.
Athelstan curiously walked to an empty pan, not understanding why this one was empty. Ragnar avoided his gaze and answered,
It's for the humans.
It turns out that the beings sacrificed included 9 living humans. Upon hearing this, Athelstan's faith completely collapsed. But what made Athelstan even more devastated was that he didn't know he was one of the 9. And this was the reason Ragnar had deceived Athelstan into coming. A VIP also arrived at the blessing ceremony. This person was Horik, the king of the Vikings. Upon seeing Ragnar, Horik showered him with praise, declaring him a hero of the Vikings, the first to venture west and defeat an English king. Ragnar swore his loyalty to King Horik, hoping that the king would dispatch several larger raiding parties to support the western expedition. His current forces were too weak to explore the New World. To pique Horik's interest, Ragnar mentioned that there was a country to the west called Francia, richer than England, and had Athelstan confirm his words. King Horik was delighted and immediately agreed to support Ragnar's raids. However, he also set a condition. I have a rebellious earl who has stationed troops on an island, seeking independence. If you can help me retake this island, I will send reinforcements for your western expedition. Ragnar gladly accepted, willing to face any danger for the dream of exploring the west. Meanwhile, Siggy approached Rollo, starting to sow discord between the brothers. Your brother is meeting with King Horik. He didn't even invite you, and he's taking all the credit for the achievements of the western voyage. He talks about equality, but in reality, he's just using you as a tool. Rollo was upset, further deepening the misunderstanding between the brothers. Before the sacrifice began, the seer took Athelstan into the temple. The priest asked Athelstan if he still considered himself a Christian. Athelstan calmly replied no.
You know why you're here, don't you? You have been brought here as a sacrifice to the gods.
After hearing the priest's words, Athelstan was in a daze, his hand involuntarily reaching for the cross, a detail that the priest caught. It was only at this moment that Athelstan understood he still maintained his Christian faith deep inside, and although he had deceived himself and Ragnar, he could not escape the servants of the gods.
I have come to tell you that the sacrifice of this man will not please the gods. His heart is corrupt. He has not renounced his false god. Instead, one amongst you must agree to take his place tomorrow at the sacrifice. If not, then all shall fail. The gods, in their anger, will punish everyone and withdraw their protection from all of us.
Although Athelstan narrowly escaped, it meant someone had to step forward to fill the gap. Floki was about to volunteer but was stopped by his girlfriend, Helga. At that moment, a warrior stepped forward.
Before anyone else can claim this honor.
This warrior had been a comrade in arms with Ragnar from the beginning, for his family, friends, and to avert the god's wrath from his people. He chose to step forward as one of the 9. The sacrifice officially began. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, the priest killed all the prepared beings and collected their blood, pouring it into the blood pool beneath the wooden statues of the gods, to let the gods feel their devotion, and the bodies of the 72 different species were hung upside down in the forest, nourishing the flora. Ragnar looked up to the sky, beginning to question whether these beings truly reached Valhalla after death, and whether sacrificing so many lives was truly worth it. This beautiful woman tiptoed into Ragnar's bed, but unfortunately, she still woke Ragnar's son Bjorn. Hearing the commotion inside, Bjorn was extremely disappointed in his father's infidelity. The next morning, Bjorn angrily confronted his father, warning him that if it happened again, he would tell his mother. Under pressure, Ragnar promised Bjorn it would not happen again, resolving to turn over a new leaf and be a good father. But who could have anticipated that from just one encounter, the woman would become pregnant with Ragnar's child, and this would ultimately lead Lagertha to part ways with him completely. Just a few days ago, Ragnar, by the king's command, arrived at the territory of Jarl Borg in Gotland Island. Accompanying Ragnar were 6 individuals: Ragnar and his son, Rollo, Floki, Torstein, and an archer named Arn. Upon meeting Jarl Borg, Ragnar got straight to the point, stating, "I've heard you're seeking independence, wanting to monopolize this island. I'm here on behalf of King Horik to negotiate with you." However, Borg did not take King Horik seriously at all, proclaiming there was nothing to discuss. "If Horik is brave enough, he should just send his troops to attack me. I'm not easily frightened." Then Borg inquired about Ragnar's name.
What's your name?
Ragnar Lothbrok.
You are Ragnar Lothbrok, the one who sailed west.
I'm surprised that you have heard about that.
As soon as Ragnar introduced himself, Borg's attitude did a complete 180-degree turn. Borg had long heard of Ragnar's exploits to the west and admired men with courage and vigor, so he immediately arranged for fine wine and food to welcome them. At the dinner table, Borg calmly discussed with Ragnar why Horik wanted the island. The island was not only vast but also rich in minerals and wealth, which was why he was so adamant about it. To avoid a full-scale conflict, Borg proposed 2 solutions. The first was for Horik to acknowledge the land as his, and he could lease it to him for his lifetime. The second was that the land would belong to neither party, and both would set aside disputes to jointly develop it. Ragnar thought the first option was unlikely, but the second sounded reasonable. However, he couldn't decide on his own and decided to send someone to consult with King Horik. Ragnar sent Floki to deliver a message to Horik, but the round trip would take more than 10 days, and he couldn't just wait around. Borg suggested there was a beautiful place on the island, where a huge eucalyptus tree stood, so large it seemed to reach the sky. You can take your men to see it. However, to prevent deceit, one person must stay here as a hostage. After some thought, Ragnar decided to leave his brother Rollo behind, which further deepened Rollo's resentment towards Ragnar. On the road, Ragnar encountered a very beautiful woman. With just one look, Ragnar was captivated by her. During their conversation, Ragnar learned that the woman's name was Aslaug, the daughter of a former king. Her mother was the legendary Valkyrie Brynhildr. Since the death of her parents, Aslaug had been living in seclusion on this island. It was evident that Aslaug also greatly admired Ragnar, as his reputation had already spread far and wide here. Ragnar proposed that Aslaug join him to see the eucalyptus tree, and without hesitation, Aslaug happily agreed. While Ragnar was enjoying his time with Aslaug, Rollo could only stay as a hostage at the camp. Spending his days idly, Borg began to stir up trouble, telling Rollo that while his brother's name was celebrated across the world, he remained an unknown soldier by his side.
A great warrior.
As am I.
I'm sure you are. And yet I've never heard of you.
Back to Ragnar, after several days of travel, the group finally arrived in front of the legendary eucalyptus tree. The days spent together also rapidly warmed the feelings between Aslaug and Ragnar. By night, Aslaug even took the initiative to climb into Ragnar's bed. Bjorn was awakened by their noise, realizing someone was disrupting his happy family. The next morning, Bjorn angrily confronted his father, warning him that if it happened again, he would tell his mother. Out of guilt, Ragnar promised there would be no next time. In fact, Ragnar did keep his word. No matter how proactive Aslaug was, Ragnar did not accept her, and Bjorn smiled satisfactorily. Compared to Ragnar's romantic moments, Lagertha was not having such a leisurely time. She had to manage the tribe's affairs for Ragnar and worried every day about her husband and son's safety outside. What was more despairing was a severe epidemic that spread throughout the tribe, infecting a large number of civilians. Lagertha's daughter, Gaida, also fell ill and eventually passed away. Lagertha was devastated, but the strong woman she was, she still lit the pyre to send off her daughter. At this time, Ragnar was completely unaware of his daughter's death. A few days later, Aslaug told Ragnar she was pregnant with his child, leaving Ragnar in a difficult position, unsure of what to do. What Ragnar didn't know was that Aslaug had intentionally approached him from the beginning, seeking protection. When Ragnar and his party returned to Borg's camp, Floki also brought back Horik's message.
Did he say?
He will make no compromises. No deals. He say you must name your price for the land.
Or?
He didn't say or.
That was, there's nothing to discuss. Borg gave Ragnar two choices, either leave by tomorrow or join him in rebellion against King Horik. Ragnar did not respond, indicating that a war seemed inevitable. That night, Borg sought out Rollo alone, asking which side he would choose if a battle ensued. If you get rid of your brother, your name will be known everywhere. Don't you want that? Torn between his own brother and the desire to make a name for himself, Rollo was truly unsure of how to choose. Meanwhile, Ragnar was making a tough and painful decision. He picked up a dagger, ready to kill someone. When the door was pushed open, it wasn't Rollo and Borg inside but Aslaug. Aslaug was well aware. She knew Ragnar wanted to eliminate her to return to his family. When Ragnar's hand rested on Aslaug's stomach, he ultimately couldn't bring himself to do it. For the sake of the child, Ragnar decided to bring Aslaug back to the tribe, a decision that would ultimately cost him the love of his wife.
I say yes. I will fight with you. I will fight with you against my brother.